Welcome everyone. This is our first ever release party. Beda will tell you everything that's new in our newest release and how to work with it. And in the end, we welcome any questions you might have. Okay, so I think Beda, you can start.
Okay, thanks, Simona. At the beginning, I would like to say that this release part is hopefully one of the start of a series, because we were thinking about how to get information about the newest release in the simplest possible way for you to digest and to really start working with the new features. And such a release party where we would show you everything quickly in a live demo seemed like the best solution for this. So this is the first one, but hopefully not the last one. One of the first features I would like to mention is the integration of the counter registry. I think many of you already know the counter registry. It's a very important project from Countermetrics, and it shows you all the platforms, all the vendors who are counter compliant, and info about their sushi services and so on. And this has been already integrated into CELUS for a long time, but in version 11 we have improved it, and part of the registry are these notifications of issues and data updates, which show you if there was something a specific vendor needed to communicate to its users. So usually it's something about data needing to be reharvested because there was some change, or some that the provider moved from one sushi provider to a different one and you need to update your credentials or something like that. And you can either follow these notifications here in the registry, or now newly you can follow it also in CELUS. When you look at these events or notifications here, we have integrated it into this view as well. So amongst the other information like that your manually created sushi harvest was finished successfully and so on, you can also see the events with this in this category platform info. I can filter it down to only those, and you can see here the same message that you have seen here in the counter registry, the first one from the Royal Society. It's also available here in CELUS, so it will pop up here for you, and you will see like the information from the counter registry, which dates were affected, which version, and here you can see that this was taken from the registry. So you no longer have to go to the registry to follow these notifications. CELUS is doing it for you. So this is one of the counter-related features. This is independent of the counter version. But as you all know, last year was mostly about counter 5.1. I would say that for CELUS, most of the work we did last year was related to counter 5.1. And I hope that what we did was will make it easy for you to work with counter 5.1, and most of the features I will be mentioning in the next few slides are related to this. So one of the big changes that we introduced with counter 5.1 was the integration of the full item report. For 5.0, we only supported the IRM1, the multimedia report, but for counter 5.1, we wanted to have the full IR report, so not only multimedia, but also articles from journals and so on, so that you can really drill down to your usage to the individual item, individual article level. Unfortunately, what we found out is that for many publishers, the item report, if they have it, is not consistent with the title report. So one of the main features of the item report is that if you sum up the usage from individual items, individual articles, you should get the total usage for the title, for the journal. And unfortunately, for many publishers, this doesn't work. So you sum up the usage from individual articles, and it differs from what you get for the whole title. And this is a problem for us because then in CELUS we would show you inconsistent data in different parts of the system, and it would create confusion. So what we decided was that we will only permit harvesting of item reports for platforms where we actually verified that this works and that both of those reports are consistent with each other. Unfortunately, this led to the situation where only about like 25% of the publishers are now allowed to harvest item report. But that caused another problem that the item report is the only source where you can get information about multimedia. So to solve this, we added support for the IRM1 in the version 11 for all platforms, even those that, regardless if they have or don't have whitelisted the full IR report. So if you now go to your sushi credentials, sushi management, and you would select one of the 5.1s, and you would change the reports which are available for the platform, you will here see this sad face telling you that the IR report was not turned on for this platform because we couldn't verify that it really works together with the title report. But you can still see that the IR M1 is available and you can harvest it without any problem when it's supported by the platform. So this is one of the things. Of course, there you might think that there could be a problem that you will get like duplicated data from the full IR and the IR M1 report. But because in CELUS you always work with specific reports, if you work with IR M1, you will just see that. If you work only with IR, you will just see that. And when it comes to interest, where we aggregate data from different reports and create this one new report called interest, there we added a cascade where if you go to multimedia, by the way, this tab is completely new as well, and it shows you the hierarchy, how interest is computed from different reports. So here you can see that the multimedia type of interest is preferentially computed from the 5.1 item report, the full one. But if it's not available, then we will use the multimedia item request from 5.1. And if that is not available, we will use counter 5 multimedia item requests. So this is how we deal with this in interest. When we have the full IR, we will take that, and we will also use it for full text and full text denial and so on. But if we don't have it, then we will replace it with the IRM1. So there is no problem with like double counting or something like that. And this feature that specific reports can be used as a fallback for other reports, which was introduced in interest and which was in fact the main point of the whole idea of this interest report was that we wanted to have in the days where we were transitioning from counter 4 to counter 5, we wanted to have some way how to continue with the data, how to provide you with some usage data that is continuous from the counter 4 to counter 5. And we came up with this idea of interest. And of course, this can be now used also for 5.1, where you will get the continuity from 4 to 5 to 5.1. And this is, of course, very useful. So if you, for instance, go to this dashboard, you can see here that we have the continuity of the usage from here, where we only had like 5.0 data to 5.1 data here, or some mix. But of course, when it comes to this interest, it's very useful, but it doesn't give you all the detailed information. It doesn't contain information about access types. It doesn't contain information about access methods and so on. So one more very important thing we wanted to have in the version 11 was to somehow allow you to track the data continuity even in the full report. So if you want to use the title report and you have title report from counter 5 and then you have title report from counter 5.1, we wanted to give you the ability to continue and see the data as a continuous, not as two different sets of reports. And this is, of course, very important, especially in this year and the last year when we were transitioning between 5.0 and 5.1. So I will very briefly show you what came up. Here you can see I have 4 different platforms which have different mix of 5.1 and 5 data. And if you want to work with the data, you can go to reporting, and in reporting you can create any type of report you would like. You can like filter your data, group your data, and so on, or organize it in any way you want. So if I now use the counter 5 title report and just use the standard first setup where I have different platforms in rows and run it, you will see that I have 3 out of the 4 platforms have counter 5 title report. And if I change it now a little bit and I will use years and months as columns, I will filter down to only one metric so that it's simpler. I will also slightly change this range to be slightly narrower so that we don't see so many columns and it's easier to read. And if I now run it, you will see that these are the same 3 platforms. And some of them, the first one has data for the whole period, but the second one only has counterfeit data until the end of 24. And in 25, they have only zeros. And this third platform also doesn't have data in counter 5 since April, but until they had data at least until March 25. If I now change it to counter 5.1 title report and run the same, you will see again 3 platforms out of the 4, but this one is new, this wasn't there, and it's there now. And you can see again, the first one has like 100% coverage here, their data for the whole period, but these 2 only have data from the start of 2025. So they have only 50% coverage, only half of the period is covered with data. So how do you work with that if you have data in 5.0 and 5.1? You can, of course, select here that you want to see both reports. And now if you run it, you will see all 4 platforms. And you will see that there is some coverage here, some data is missing. But for instance, here you can see that you have data everywhere, but you have only 75% coverage. This is because the reports now are summed together. So this doesn't really work because everywhere you have overlap, you are summing data together, which is not good. And I can show you very quickly using another new feature in this release is that you can have multiple columns defining each row. So I can select not only platform, but also report type here as a second. If I now run it and I sort it by platform, you will see that this progressive press has counter 5 and counter 5.1, and they have usage here in one of them only until end of 24, but usage in all of them in 5.1 for the whole period. and responsible platform has a similar situation, but there is an overlap here in the first 3 months of 25. By the way, the completely different usage here is caused by the source of the data, where I used a random generator for this data. So it was generated completely different for the different versions of counter, but it doesn't matter for this demonstration. It's just about where the data is and where the data is not. And here you see that if I simply summed up the counter 5 and counter 5.1 usage, in case there was no overlap, it wouldn't be a problem. But here, where there is an overlap, I would get like double counting here and here in these 3 months, and here also I would get double counting in these 5 months, which is something I don't want. So what I want to do is something that we have been already doing a long time with interest, and that is to merge those two together, use one of the reports as the primary one, and the second one only if data is missing from the first one. And this can be accomplished easily by simply selecting this checkbox merge reports. Now you see that it changed slightly. One of the reports is now highlighted in this dark green, and this is the primary source of data. And the second one will now be used as fallback. And if I now run the same thing, you will see that now only, for instance, here for progressive press, which had data for the whole period in 5.1, only 5.1 is present. And here for this responsible platform, where there was an overlap of 3 months, the overlap disappeared, because these 3 months where we already had 5.1, 5.0 was not used at all. So if I now remove this report type from here and just run it as before, I will get 4 platforms. I will get the usage. There is no double counting. And here in the last column, I can see which of the reports was used for generating this particular row. So you can see that the first 2 were only created using 5.1 data. The third is a mix of 5 and 5.1. And the fourth is only based on counter 5 data. There was no counter 5.1. Another interesting thing you can see here is the coverage, which before was something under 100, and also in here, now it's 87%. If I switch this off, it will immediately drop down to 71. And if I again merge it, it will again rise to 87. This is because when we are calculating the coverage, we consider the two merged reports as one. So whenever there is data, at least in one of the reports, we will consider that month as covered with data. So this then improves the coverage, because even if here, for instance, the 5.5.0 is only available for half of the period, because there is 5.1 for the rest, it's completely covered, and then the coverage is considered 100%. I can maybe show you a slightly different version of this to make it more clear, where I will put the years and months into rows. I will only use the platform, for instance, this responsible platform. And I will use just the metric for the rows here. I will drop the totals. And you can see here that when I will sort it by month. And you can here see that I have used counter 5 until the end of 24. And since then, I am using counter 5.1, because counter 5.1 is the primary report here. If I use these arrows to switch it over and make counter 5 the primary source of the data and rerun it, you will see that I am now using counter 5 data until March, where it was the last month where it was available, and only from April I am using counter 5.1. Of course, again, this is like not real data. In real world, the data from counter 5.1 and 5.0 would be mostly the same, in many cases exactly the same, so it doesn't really matter. But what is important is that whenever one of the reports is available, you will get data. You will not, and only from one of the reports. There is no double counting, and the fallback report always fills in the holes that are missing in the primary report. So this is very important feature, and it works for everything. So if you set up your reports here, like to be merged together, you can create any report you want, and the way it works in the background means that you will always like it will be always treated like these two reports merged together. Whenever there is a hole in one of them, the other will be used. So it's very useful for any analysis of data from last year and so on. Another thing to mention is that we also implemented the same feature in this what we call specialized reports, iPads most notably, and so on. So if you go to these specialized reports, iPads is the first one selected. By the way, we have updated this version to the latest version of the iPad's specification. If you run it now, unfortunately for this first one, the data is generated in a way that there is a 0 here, but for this one here, you will see that this uses the DR from 5.1 as the primary report and fallback to 5.0 title report. And again, here, this fallback is applied on a monthly basis. In previous versions of CELUS, what we did was that we always selected one of the reports. So if we had 5.1, we used that for the whole row, for the whole period. And only if we didn't have it, we used the 5.0 for the whole row again. So here there will be many more zeros in this in the old version. In the new version, it really the fallback report fills even the holes in the previous report, and you can see the source which was used for different rows here, so that you can clearly distinguish which version was used. So if you use iPads now, you will get support for 5.1 merged together with 5.0 without anything needed on your side. So I know that many of you were dealing with the problem of counter 5 versus counter 5.1 by, for instance, removing usage from the beginning of this year when it was in counter 5, so that there was no overlap between 5.0 and 5.1. But this is not needed. You can easily work with CELUS by merging those reports. And if you keep the data from 5.0 and 5.1 and you have an overlap here, you can easily analyze the differences, if there are any differences between the 5.0 and 5.1 usage and so on, which can be sometimes useful. So I would advise not to delete the usage, keep it there. CELUS can handle it without any problem. So this is the data continuity feature, which I think is probably the most important of the last release. Then one of the things more new things in reporting, which I already mentioned, but I will return to it a little bit more, is the possibility to have more row defining columns in reports. So before here, you only could select one of the dimensions which was defining what is in the table. But now you can use several more. So you can, for instance, split it not only by platform, but also by access type and access method. And if you run it now, you will see that it looks similar to the tabular counter reports, where you have like different columns and you have the usage split not only by platform, but also by access type, access method, and so on. So it's much more flexible now. And especially if you want to export the data and then work with it later on in another tool like Excel and whatever, you can now get the data much better organized by using this feature. Okay, so back to the presentation. Now, I think this is the last feature, but definitely not the least. And this is a new one. No, it's not the last one. There will be one more. But this one is really, really interesting. And it is something that many of you were asking for. And this is anomaly detection in your data, because you know that sometimes you come to CELUS after 3 months and you find out that there was a huge spike in your usage 2 months ago and you didn't know about it, and now you are wondering what is happening, what was happening, and if probably you should have known about it before. So now in CELUS we will detect cases where the usage has significantly changed from the, let's say, normal usage. Here I have just simulated one such case where you can see that in the in August, sorry, there was some anomaly. It was in the database report for the progressive press platform. And in fact, there were two. One of them was for the limit exceeded metric, and one of them was for the searches regular metric. Here you can see that the normal usage, the median of the usage for the previous 12 months, because we always compare the month that we analyze, we compare it with the previous 12 months. And we create a model of how the usage looked in those 12 months, and then we compare it with the current value. And if there is a significant difference, we will treat it as an anomaly here. So you can see that the normal usage is around 7,000, but now it was 10,000. So it jumped up by 3,000. And if you look here, you will get some more details about it. You can see it also here in this very small chart that the usage is usually very stable. You can see it here as well in this larger one. It's usually very stable around the 7,000, but now it jumped to 10,000. And this green area shows you where we would normally expect the usage values to be. So between, let's say, 5,000 and 9.5 thousand, but now it jumped to 10,000, so it was an anomaly. And here we will even show you more details about it. We will look deeper into the data and try to find some culprits for this. So here, for instance, we found out that there is no specific title or database causing this jump, but one of the two access methods is doing it. So there was a jump in TDM, but not in the other regular access method. And here you can even open this detail in reporting, and it will show you a report which already is prepared so that it clearly shows you the 12 months, the prior 12 months, and now the current month. And it shows you the two different access methods, the regular and TDM, and you can see that the regular is always around 6,000, and it stayed the same, but TDM was always under 1,000, and now it's 3,000. So you can see that this is probably the culprit. This is probably where the change happened. By the way, this is another cool new feature in reporting that you can now, if you are not actively editing the report, you are more looking at the output. You can use this arrow here to minimize the editor, and then you can open it again. So if you wanted to dig deeper and do something else with the report, you can do it here. but unless you need it, you can simply minimize it like this. You will still see what is happening in the report, but you get more focus on the data, and you don't need to care about the editor. So this is the anomaly report. One of the cool features of this is that not only can you see it in CELUS in the UI, but when you have your monthly harvesting report turned on in CELUS, which we did by default, and if you did turned it off, you can always turn it on here on your user page by simply clicking this and saying that you want your harvest reports, or you can even send a sample to you immediately. And in this harvest report, you will get information about what was successfully harvested last month, if there were any problems. And a new part of this report is also any anomalies that were found in that period, so that you can immediately jump to it and have a look at what is happening. And now the last feature I mentioned, and this is something again that we got many questions about, and this is an analytical database, because many of you were asking if there is a way to get your usage data into Power BI and other such analytical tools for further work with, or if you want to join it together with some other data from other parts of your organization and so on. And this is our solution for this. We created an analytical database where all your usage data are duplicated. It's a separate database, so you are not talking with CELUS directly, but it is an external database. So even if your queries are very demanding, it will not slow down the CELUS itself. But it is running on our infrastructure on a very fast analytical database called ClickHouse, which we already use internally in CELUS for other data manipulations and so on. And as I mentioned, it's compatible with Power BI, Metabase, Apache Superset, and other tools. These three we have all successfully tested. Or it is an SQL very standard SQL query language as well. So if you are really like into programming and so on, you can also ask it using SQL, or you can write your own script. But I guess most of you would be more interested in the Power BI integration and so on. By the way, this is something that there will be a webinar in the near future. If you are interested in that, it will be definitely something to look forward to. Here is just a screenshot that, yes, really, Power BI desktop, you have all your data here in different tables, the DR table, TR table, PR, and whatever, all the tables here, and you have your data inside Power BI, and you can do whatever magic you want to do with the data right in Power BI. Currently, this feature is in beta, so it's not turned on by default. If you had it turned on, you would see the details here. I don't have it turned on for this demo organization, but you have the information here. If you write to us to ask at celus.net and you would like to try it, we would be happy to turn it on for you, and so that you can try it and see if it works for you and what it can do. So this is all from me, and now there is time for questions and hopefully some answers.
Thank you, Beda.
Yeah.
There is one question in the Q&A. In the meantime, you can think about more questions. You can raise your hand and I will allow you to talk. But first, the question from Chris N, who says, I love the new anomaly report. We operate on a semester schedule, so it is normal for us to have a month like January show very low usage and then February to have high usage. This type of pattern is flagged as an anomaly in the anomaly report. Is there a way to set the anomaly report to compare to that month last year instead of to the previous month or the median?
Okay. Well, that's interesting to hear because when we were like tweaking and fine-tuning this anomaly report, this is something that we were considering. Mm, we didn't want to have those right like regular yearly patterns showing as anomalies. And I hope that we have like ironed it out and that it doesn't show this because the way it works is that the more regular the normal usage is, the smaller threshold is there for considering something an anomaly. So if the usage normally jumps up and down and changes very often, then it would really need to change very much for us to consider it an anomaly. And in many cases, or in the cases we have seen this trend where it changes with the semesters and so on, we saw that this mechanism took care of those false anomalies and just didn't allow them. But if you let us know in which data it appears for you, we can definitely have a look at it and we will tweak the algorithm so that it doesn't show these things as anomalies anymore. Because of course we don't want to cause false alarms and every year write you the same email about anomalies if there is not really an anomaly. So please let us know and we will have a look at it. But I see a new question in
Yes, new
Q&A about
question from Nancy.
proprietary IDs in report columns. Well, no, it's not possible right now, but it's definitely something we could consider. Right now, it's not. Yeah, there is. It's not possible to configure what will be displayed for, let's say, individual titles and so on. We always include a standard set of columns like the ISSN and EISSN and whatever. But we could definitely include the proprietary ID, I guess, especially for databases which don't have any other meaningful ID. Usually, this could be useful. So yes, good idea. We will have a look at it.
I see now that Eve has a question here. Is there a way to see which publishers or platforms are not populating the item reports?
I guess you mean like which ones we did not allow to IR to be harvested from. Because if you want to see who has IR reports according to the registry, you can always, like, it's not possible to find it here, but you can always look at each of them and you will see if they have IR marked as on or off here. But of course, this is different from what we then allow you to harvest because some of them don't really work very well. There is no list right now. You would have to go, you would have to try to add sushi for each of them, and then you will see if it allows you to use IR or not, but which I guess it's not very useful. So yeah, this is something that we may consider as well, adding some list of those with whitelisted IR. Yeah, I think that would make a very, or didn't we already do it? I know that we were considering it, and now I maybe if I am able to switch back on. Yeah, we already did it, and I forgot it. Sorry. So yeah, this is the best kind of work when you just have to remember that you already did it. In sushi troubleshooting, you will find the list of platforms which have the IR report whitelisted, so for which you can already harvest the full IR report. There is no like inverse list where you would see those that are not allowed, but if they are not on this list, they are not allowed. By the way, in a few weeks, we will be refreshing this list again. Hopefully, there has been some development on the publisher side, and we will be able to add more of them to this list. I see a question about change of IP addresses. Yes, that's true. Yeah, I think you got an email, or at least we sent it to you about there was a migration from one provider on our side, like a technical migration of the servers CELUS is running on from one provider to a different one. So the IP addresses, as you can see here, the IP addresses of CELUS have changed. So in case there was some whitelisting needed on the publisher side to let CELUS harvest your data, unfortunately, it would have to be redone. According to the Counter 5.1 specification, the publishers are not allowed to use IP address to like block access to Sushi or Counter API, but some of them are still doing it, unfortunately. So yeah, if there is a problem and it's caused by the IP address, it would need to be re-whitelisted, so to say, by the platform, by the publisher.
Okay, there is one sort of question that
Yeah, global item report. Well, this is global item reports on one hand are the same as item reports when it comes to the structure, but they are a completely different beast when it comes to what they are used for, because they show all the usage from one publisher. Yeah, and it's not somehow specific to any user. So these reports would necessarily have to be huge. And as of now, we only know about a handful of small publishers who are really publishing these reports, and we didn't even have time mm, to really analyze it and work with it, because yeah, it's a strange kind of problem. It's completely reversed from the normal usage data you have. So for if to show you the whole global report wouldn't really be very useful, because you will be probably only interested in what you published, what your institution has paid for to be published, and that would be like searching for the needle in the haystack. So for this, I guess we would need, once it's available more broadly, we would need to find a different way how to deal with it, so that we can only show you the relevant usage and not the whole usage of the whole world, which would be like huge and very hard to navigate. So this is the global item report is something that we are considering or have been considering for a long time now, but there is so little of it that we just don't have enough data to work on, even when it comes to how to get the report, what kind of credentials should be used. Some of the publishers, or all of them, or maybe I should say both of them, are putting them behind credentials. So it's not clear how to yeah, what the credentials exactly should be, and what is the, yeah, that's a complicated question, maybe for like a more one-on-one discussion if you would like to discuss the topic, or and so on. But it is definitely something that we are like watching, and we would really like to have support for the global item report in CELUS. But right now we are waiting for it to become even published by more than a handful of publishers.
okay, we have one more question in the chat here from Madhu. Asking where do we go to check mark for monthly harvesting report?
Okay, so it's when you click on this upper right corner, and you get to your like user page, and here you can see each organization if you have more than one, but you probably have one, uh, which you are a member of, and you will just turn this on and it will be enabled. And at the end of the month, you will get an email. If you click this blue envelope, it will send you the harvest report for the last month immediately so that you can see what it looks like, so that you can immediately see what the email looks like.
Okay, now I really don't see any more questions. Thank you, Madhu. Thank you, everyone. If you come up with any other questions thinking about this later today, you can always send them to us at ask@celus.net. And we are looking forward to see you again in the next release party. Thank you for joining. Thank you, Veda.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.